All right, up next, we're excited to bring a Domino customer to the stage. Our next speaker is the EVP and Chief Customer Officer at Northwestern Mutual. As if that wasn't enough, he's also a father of 5 and a competitive sailor. Please welcome to the stage, Christian Mitchell.
Good morning, everybody. It's so great to be here with you. I'm really excited to be a part of this conference and to be part of this moment where we're engaging in such important dialogue about the future of generative AI and technology. So during a recent CNBC interview, the ever-present Elon Musk was asked about the impact of generative AI on the future and specifically on his kids. And he reflected on the fact that in the future, it may be difficult to find purpose in a world where the AI can not only do your job, but do it better than you ever could. And this is the verbatim quote from the interview. He said, "I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into building companies. I thought, wait, should I be doing this? Because then I'm sacrificing time with friends and family. To some extent, I need to have deliberate suspension of disbelief in order to stay motivated." This is kind of an incredible quote, right? We've got one of the most noteworthy entrepreneurs of our era who's saying he has to engage in some level of suspension of disbelief in order to continue to build companies. And I'll admit that I've had a similar sentiment at times. I come into the office and I really think about every day building incredible digital tools that are going to make our clients better off financially and make our advisors more productive. But I also wonder, how fast is generative AI going to fundamentally transform or just supplant these tools in a way that makes my work just irrelevant? So I've given myself some time to kind of wallow in the lack of motivation, but then the time comes to move beyond disbelief, move beyond that lack of motivation, and lead forward. And for me at Northwestern Mutual and my team, we have 5 million clients. We have over 22,000 people on our field force. And all of those individuals, they're depending on us to lead forward, for us to blaze that path and show them the future and lead them towards that future. So as my team and I, as we're grappling with these questions, as we're thinking about where the future might head, there are really 3 questions that we're rallying around. Do we want to be a leader or a fast follower in this space? How do we stay on top of everything that's happening? And lastly, but most importantly, how do we do this in a highly ethical way? So I certainly don't have definitive answers to any of these questions, but what I want to do today is really structure my remarks around exploring these and read you into how we're grappling with these 3 dimensions of the moment that we're in. So the first question, and the question that really frames all the others, is do we want to be a leader or do we want to be a fast follower in this space? And I think there's something to be said for the fast follower strategy. You know, as the folks in this audience know, everything's changing on a nearly daily basis, just the dizzying array of headlines. You know, why not just sit back and wait, let things settle out a little bit? You know, once there's a clear path forward, then make the big bets, then make the investments and move forward. But for us, the answer to this question, it really lies in considering who we are, like why we exist as a company. And we're really there to make clients better off financially, to help them live the lifestyles they want to live, the lifestyles for their kids, such that they can leave a legacy, really make everyone who's part of the Northwestern Mutual family better off financially. And just to give you a little bit more context to dig into who we are, so Northwestern Mutual is a 166-year-old Fortune 100 financial services company. We provide financial security for our clients through insurance solutions, investments, other protection products, annuities. We wrap that all into this really deep planning approach, and then it's all provided to the client through the trusted guidance of an advisor. So if you think about the 3 things that are really core to what we do: client interaction, mortality underwriting, and investment or portfolio construction. And as I think about those 3 aspects of who we are, I think all 3 of those are poised to be fundamentally transformed by generative AI. And what further enters into our thought process around our desire, our need to lead, or how we react to this, is the long-lived relationships that we have with our clients. The oldest policy that we have on the books, that is still on the books, was written in 1932. That individual and millions others, they send us premium checks, they send us their deposit dollars for decades and decades with the expectation that we'll be there when they really need us. We have this unbelievable responsibility, this unbelievable stewardship for all of these folks that have entrusted us with their money for so long. And it's that really lies at the heart of my desire to lead the insurance industry as it pertains to generative AI. So I thought I'd dive a little bit deeper on one aspect of our need to lead, and this relates to mortality underwriting. So over the last 100 years, insurance companies have got a lot better at underwriting. More recently, AI and ML has really allowed us to improve those models even further. At Northwestern Mutual, about 25% of our policy volume is issued straight through. That means there's no human touch. Our models are rendering that underwriting decision. We can issue them in a day. We're really proud of that. And as we look forward, I think AI and ML is going to continue to really advance the bounds around underwriting. All that said, I really think the transformation lies not in underwriting, but in mortality itself. I really believe that we're at the precipice of humankind fundamentally rethinking mortality for the first time in history. So let me give you a few for instances on this. So first off, the biggest driver of mortality in our book for clients that are under age 45 is automobile accidents. As we think about autonomous cars, AI-powered autonomous cars making up a greater and greater proportion of the number of cars that are on the road, it's going to significantly decrease those motor vehicle accidents. In fact, there are a lot of studies that suggest those could go down by as much as 90%. That's going to be a huge near-term change to our mortality. So that's one. Secondly, cancer, a big driver of mortality across our entire book. I'm sure many people in this audience are aware there's this whole bevy of startups that are looking at non-invasive ways of getting at cancer detection early. Saliva, imaging, other approaches. That's going to have a profound impact on mortality as well. As we think about wellness more broadly, there's a whole interesting startup community around diagnosing mental health. There's a company that's looking at analyzing short voice snippets from clients and looking for vocal markers of mental illness. All these innovations and everything that's going to come, I believe, is going to usher in this era of precision, personalized medicine that is going to significantly extend lifespans. And that's going to have a profound impact on the life insurance industry. So you couple this mortality extension with the innovation that's bound to happen in portfolio construction as well as client interaction. And we at Northwestern Mutual have this incredible opportunity, this obligation to transform the company. We can move from a history that was really about a point-in-time underwriting decision to really helping our clients navigate the intersection of health, wellness, and wealth, to help our clients live longer, better lives at the lifestyle that they want to live them. And this really lies at the heart of my conviction around our need to lead generative AI within the life insurance industry. So let's see. Sorry, got my slides out of order here. So this desire to want to lead is great, but we've got to stay on top of what's going on. Like there's just this dizzying array of things that's happening in this space, and we all need to navigate that. And now, fortunately, we're coming at this from a place of momentum. We're not at a standing start. I mentioned the underwriting innovations that we've made over the last few years, really pushing the percentage of business that's going through those models that can be issued nearly instantaneously. We also have other models on our platform, models that are looking at life event prediction, cross-sell, upsell, customer lifetime value, all of these models that we're putting in place in our environment. We're getting great business value out of these models. We're seeing greater levels of engagement from our clients. We're seeing revenue unlocks. And I'm personally really proud of everything that we've done. I'm really personally proud of everything that we're learning in that space. All of that said, the momentum case here is not enough. We need to do more. We need to move faster. And so I wanted to explore this idea of how we're staying on top of this current moment through three lenses. How I'm embracing this personally as a senior executive at Northwestern Mutual, how we're actually standing up the work across the enterprise, and then importantly, how we're resourcing it. So first off, starting with my embrace of the moment here, I'm not a data scientist. I have an incredible passion for technology. I have throughout my career, but I don't code. All that said, I've just become absolutely obsessed with generative AI. I listen to the podcasts, I play around with the tools myself, I do as much reading as I can, I spend time with the really talented data scientists on my team. But that can be difficult. I'm a senior executive. I have all of the regular senior executive stuff: board presentations, meetings, steering teams, more meetings. And it can sometimes be difficult to carve out that time, but I'm relentless in doing so. I really relentlessly triage all of my work such that I can devote maximum time, a huge proportion of my time every day around these issues, grappling with where this is going to take us strategically. And I feel really strongly that every senior executive at every Fortune 500 company should be doing the same, creating the same space in their schedule to really grapple with these issues. Because at the end of the day, and I know this audience knows this, the moment we're in generative AI, it's not just a point solution. It's something that is going to fundamentally transform and rewire companies and industries. So listening to podcasts, staying on top of things, reading a lot, that's great, but we really have to start to stand this up within the environment to drive real business value, to start that process of transformation. So one thing that we're doing is via our innovation lab. So this is a group that I set up. It's based here in the city, set it up a number of years ago. The innovation lab, the Northwestern Mutual Innovation Lab, is strategically aligned with where we're going as a company, but operationally it's decoupled. It has its own tech environment. And what that allows is for this small and mighty team to experiment really broadly, aggressively, and cheaply across a number of breakthrough technologies, specifically generative AI. So I'm so excited about the ability for us to learn there in a way that's outside of Northwestern Mutual. Within Northwestern Mutual, within our tech environment, we're standing up proofs of concept across the enterprise. And as we're standing these up, what I'm doing with my team, the dialogue I'm having with my team, is really trying to strike the right balance between strategic rigor and just doing lots of stuff. Of course, we want to prioritize areas in the company that we feel like are most ripe for reimagination via generative AI. That said, we want to, if there's enthusiasm somewhere, if there's a team, if there's someone that really wants to go after this, maybe it doesn't rank as highly as other areas of the company. We want to embrace that enthusiasm. It's something that I feel really strongly about the moment that we're in right now. I don't want a purist academic prioritization framework to get in the way of us going after this aggressively. I'm much more inclined to embrace a little bit of controlled chaos so we can learn as much as we can. So where we are right now, we're collecting these learnings from the innovation lab, we're collecting the learnings from the POCs that we've set up internally, and those learnings aren't just technical. Often they're about the people aspect, the change management, how we're changing process, how we're helping people wrap their minds around the incredible moment that we're in right now. So how are we resourcing this? Those of you from big organizations know that the best of intentions, if you don't have money, if you don't have people or bodies behind them, they go nowhere. And so we're doing the normal course prioritization, belt tightening, trying to create the capacity to really move forward through kind of normal budgetary means. But there's also this incredible opportunity to tap into the discretionary effort of our team, to tap into that nights and weekend time. And I'll give you an example. Every 2 weeks with my function, I do a live Ask Me Anything session via Zoom, and we have an accompanying Slack channel, and people can enter commentary. And I really love it. It's fun. It's organic. The topics are all over the place. And the questions that I field, they can range from like big company strategy all the way to when are we bringing the ice cream machines back to the cafeteria. And at a session we held about 2 weeks ago, I asked the crowd, I said, how many of you would be willing to invest discretionary effort into helping stand up a POC or researching generative AI or just being part of all of the great work that's going on? And the Slack channel just blew up with hands up, thumbs up emojis. And the simple truth is, our best folks, they're already doing this. They're already spending their free time playing around with these tools. We have this opportunity to really harness it and use all of that to move forward. And I'm so excited about what's going to come through all of this. And I'm looking forward in the future at conferences like this and other venues in the months and years to come, really sharing how the POCs that we've stood up have grown up and are driving profound business value for our company and most importantly for our clients. So now we come to my last question, and again, I think it's really the most important question, is how do we pursue this in the most ethical way? And I want to explore this through two lenses: safeguarding trust and incentive alignment. So from a safeguarding trust perspective, we know it's somewhat cliched, customers want to do business with companies they trust. And I think it's particularly important for financial services companies, particularly important for insurance companies, that we maintain, that we safeguard that trust in everything that we do. It's something at Northwestern Mutual we take very, very seriously. And in order to do that, as it pertains to AI and data, is we've put really robust governance around everything that we do. For all of the models, all of the data sources, we have frameworks, we have committees that look at them that make sure that we're prioritizing accuracy, precision, data privacy. And ultimately, we really need to prove to ourselves first and foremost, but also to regulators, that our models aren't doing any unintentional harm, that there's no bias related to sensitive factors such as race. We really have to hold ourselves to the highest standard, that as we pursue the long-term greater good, that we're not inadvertently creating some harm in the near term. Now, how we've done that, it's really premised on tight communication, a really, really robust dialogue between all areas of the company. Privacy, data, the business, legal, everyone engaged in this dialogue around how we do this, really applying the highest ethical standards. We have bias testing frameworks that we've developed, external bias testing frameworks, and we apply those very, very rigorously and on a regular basis. And then obviously this all has to be underpinned by a very, very strong, cohesive data protection strategy. Now, I'm excited, I'm proud of what we've done from a governance perspective. These processes are great, but I actually think we need to look at this situation from a higher vantage point. I think the ethical usage of these technologies, it demands more than just process and governance. I think companies need to ask themselves a deeper, more introspective set of questions. Why do we exist? Have we put incentives in place such that the ethical use of these tools is the foregone conclusion? It's the path of least resistance for our employees. Now, companies are going to answer those questions in lots of different ways. For Northwestern Mutual, the response really lies in an immutable and defining characteristic of who we are. We're a mutual insurance company. That means our clients own us. And as you think about that concept, there is an element of intergenerational dependence that I think is really profound. Our clients today are benefiting from the investments of previous clients. The clients of tomorrow are benefiting from the clients of today. And the application, as it pertains to generative AI, is really, really profound in that, of course, our models will be developed and trained on our clients' data, but all of the value that comes out of those models will be plowed back to those clients. They're the only constituency that we serve, the clients of today and the clients of tomorrow. And I think, again, often about kind of the long-lived aspect of our relationship with clients. I mentioned earlier that policy that was issued in 1932. I often reflect that yesterday or today or tomorrow, we're going to issue a policy that will be on the books for 60, 70, 80, 90 years. And the profound obligation that we have to those individuals to safeguard their financial future, but also to act with the highest ethical standards such that the senior executive at Northwestern Mutual 70, 80 years from now can look back at the actions that we made, the decisions that we made today, and be proud that we did that with the highest ethical standards. It's for all these reasons that I really believe that we need to approach this question from the ethical high ground. So as I wrap up, I wanted to share with you just a few final reflections. So as I mentioned earlier, I've been consuming just a tremendous amount of kind of AI-related technical material. But as I kind of grapple with this moment, I've also been revisiting some works of philosophy. And one such work is The Abolition of Man that was written by C.S. Lewis some 70 years ago. Though the title may kind of imply that it's about generative AI, it's really more about a renunciation of subjectivism and kind of this call for people to act with greater morality, for people to be better. And as I was reading this book, I came across a passage that I think is really interesting in light of the moment that we're in. So C.S. Lewis sketches a human person as really being having three components: the head, which represents pure intellect; the stomach, which represents our appetites or desires; and C.S. Lewis suggests that it's in the chest or the heart that we synthesize and we balance these factors. It's in our chest or hearts where we truly become human. And I think the parallel with the moment that we're in right now is really profound. If we pursue the generative AI opportunity with just our heads, we will do a lot of things just to see if they're possible, just out of pure curiosity, without regard to where it might take us. If we pursue this with just our stomachs, it will become just a monetization vehicle, just to make more money, again, with no regards to where it takes us. Now, I want to be clear, like the technical curiosity, the technical drive of where we are and the desire to make money, to profit from this, totally natural and normal. And I think those are some of the factors that are making this moment so interesting and dynamic. But ultimately, the call to action for all of us, for technical folks, for regulators, for politicians, for senior executives, is for us to seek to balance and synthesize kind of the technical aspect and the profit aspect of this in a way that is really, really beneficial. You know, I might state it more poignantly or more pointedly that we really have this opportunity collectively. We have the responsibility to make this moment really the highest expression of our heart and humanity, and not its abolition. So those are the remarks I wanted to share with you today. I believe we have a little bit of time for Q&A, so would love to address anything that might be on your mind.
Thank you for your talk. It's quite exciting that a large fraction of your team are willing to give up discretionary time to explore generative AI. I'm curious what best practices you have for harnessing that enthusiasm without killing it.
That's a great question. I would love to hear people's responses from the audience, because we are in the midst of figuring out exactly how we do that. We've got an intake process. So I mentioned earlier, we've got these POCs, some set up with some rigor, some kind of crowdsourced. We're looking at what we need to staff all of those POCs, taking an inventory of those that have shown interest and trying to match it all up. But it's, again, one of those areas that, frankly, we don't have everything figured out. Now, like a more traditional, like corporate way of going about this would be to like sit back and come up with all of the meetings and the flow charts and everything to make it work so we could do all of the matching. But as I mentioned earlier, I really want to get to a place where we're embracing a little bit of controlled chaos. We don't have everything figured out, but we want to be really timely in terms of harnessing those that have expressed interest.
Hey, so a curiosity question. Many times when AI makes the decision, when it goes to the courts most times sides opposite of that. They say that you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt a human looking at that would have made the same decision. So which means the proof of burden is on you. So what are you guys are exactly doing for whether it's a data snapshotting or model validation or anything related to that to prove the AI decision is equal to or better than every time a human would have made?
Yeah, so relative to underwriting, where I think your question really resonates most, we have just a tremendous amount of backtesting capability. We do holdouts where we're looking at the human decision relative to the model decision. There's a tremendous amount of rigor around that. I would say more broadly, as we start to really pursue these proofs of concept, I think stuff that really directly touches the client, that's a place where we need to be a little bit more careful and maybe do a little bit more experimentation before we scale. Whereas I think there are other areas within the company, whether it's Copilot or Code Whisperer or helping our customer service representatives, where I think we can go a lot faster because we've got, it isn't quite as high stakes and we have some safeguards in place to make sure that we don't have negative client impact.
When pushing for a change agenda like this in a company has such a long tradition and a strong culture, I assume, how do you find gaining alignment with your peers and even convincing your stakeholders like the board that these are the risks worth taking?
Yeah, it's a fabulous question, and that's kind of the dance that I'm doing every day. We've got a fabulous board that really represents a lot of different technical disciplines, and they're really leaning in. But with my peers, it's a combination of bringing in outside experts, changing the dialogue that we're having at the executive team, exposing the executive team to the tools. I'm also very attuned to, finding someone who's got a spark of interest and forming kind of a coalition of the willing to move forward. I think one of the really cool things about generative AI too is you can stand up little experiments quickly and cheaply that are interesting and like provocative in terms of where we're going. So we're in the midst of doing that. So we can really, like in a kind of fast twitch way, show executives where this could take us. So I think I'm leaning on personal relationships. You've got to kind of pull out that full array of techniques to really move the organization.
I had a question about what ethical AI looks like for a company like Northwestern Mutual Insurance, healthcare, those kind of things in the age of the Internet of Things. As that data comes online, what will ethical AI look like to use that?
Yes, it's a great question, and I might broaden it to just kind of like non-traditional data sources beyond just like the Internet of Things. And we're really interested in leveraging all of those various data sources, but it's really guided by two things that I mentioned. We've got a very robust anti-bias framework in place. We want to make sure that we don't inadvertently do something in the model that harms a certain group of people. And a lot of the ethical usage of AI comes back to this elegant incentive alignment that I referenced earlier. Like, our clients are our owners. It just naturally puts us in a place where we want to do right by them. We want to act with the highest ethical standards. What that means relative to IoT data relative to some other situation, I think it's going to change, and it's going to be case specific, but like really having that North Star of incentive alignment and pushing that down to our people gives me a lot of confidence we'll be able to navigate those situations.
I've got a question here. This way.
Oh, thanks.
I come from a company where the generative AI support comes directly from the CEO, which is great. And how do you support and balance the generative AI innovation from both top down and also bottom up?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's so much bottoms up enthusiasm. I think it becomes less a question of that end of the spectrum. I think it becomes more around that executive dialogue. I spend a tremendous amount of time with the CEO, my boss, talking about these things. I've written him several kind of like memos of, laying out my vision as to how this is really going to impact us strategically, which has had him leaning in. So at least in my instance, the unlock is less like the grassroots, because that's already there. It's about getting the executive will to essentially move forward and harness that. And part of that dialogue, particularly at the executive level, is to really show people that the models can be a point solution, and that's important, but the real value is the reimagination of critical aspects of our business and having people wrap their heads around that. So it becomes a much deeper strategic exercise at the senior level, rather than like, wouldn't it be cool if we could just like implement this point solution?
And a quick question from my side. Thank you for sharing your experience. In the beginning, you mentioned that your advisors, they were looking towards their team to help them, reach out to the customers in the best possible way. With these generative AIs, the more we give the insights to the advisors, there is a chances that they stop becoming creative, right, in the future, possibly. So how do you manage that expectation whether you have thought of building let's say, a framework where you bring the insights from the human, and at the same time you are adding more insights so that you have a collaborative effect, kind of a situation between a human and a machine?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the way I think about it is relative to kind of the age and sophistication of the advisor. So I think a lot of the power here is going to be for our younger advisors. They don't have the experience, they don't have the intuition. Like a virtual SME or like a chatbot that's writing sidecar with them, it's going to help them get up to speed so much faster and provide a much higher quality of advice. For our more senior advisors, they've kind of developed all of that intuition already. Of course, there are places where we can prompt them, but those senior advisors, we really want to continue to create an area of innovation and for them to push the bounds. Because I think there's always going to be interesting insights that come out of those folks that have been in an industry that have been working with clients 20, 30, 40 years. Some of those insights could get fed back into the chatbot, but that's how we think about it. We think the application is much more for those younger advisors to get them up to speed.
We got one back here. So
Great.
you talked about, sort of stakes and how fast you can go with some use cases. Can you maybe talk about, prioritization of impact of use cases and then sort of speed at which versus like, quick wins versus high impact wins, and how you think about going about deploying resources in that regard?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a portfolio that incorporates a little bit of all of that. Initially, and we're actually doing a demo with the senior team on Monday around a chat interface on top of some institutional knowledge. It's really important to have some of those quick wins, some of those provocative moments to get the flywheel going, to get people leaning in, to help people understand the possibility of this. But the portfolio, we're really trying to hit all of those different notes. Stuff that could be eventually client-facing, things that might be a little bit more about expense reduction, things that are more of a near-term, things that could play out over a longer period of time. Again, it's consistent with my view that we need to be experimenting really broadly and aggressively across a really wide swath of domains. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the great questions, and please enjoy the rest of the conference.